It's not only that they give us more work. The way that I view the relationship to Barty is that it has really actually evolved into a kind of partnership where actually we are doing all kinds of different things together with them. Actually, and it started off with an IT. It started off with an IT outsourcing. But they are doing, for example, something which I view is very typical for Indian firms these days. They are, of course, they are growing at extremely high rate. So this extreme growth actually needs to be managed, and we are helping them to actually manage the growth. The growth actually includes expansion outside of India, and that is something which we have detected. In general in the market. There is something what we call the second wave of globalization, which is not the kind of traditional globalization you have seen for a few decades, which is basically Western companies expanding into emerging markets, but it's actually that we now see that the opposite direction is happening. What we have seen is that I think IBM is in a unique position to actually address a challenge which I have seen being around for at least 20 years, which is bridging business and technology. So it often starts with a very simple. With a very simple issue, that is, that those two groups of people in a corporation actually speak different languages. So the business people talk about something that technology people don't understand. The technology people, they have some techno speak. The business people don't understand, and it's really hard for them to actually talk to each other. What I think is difficult to actually get over this gap coming just from one side. And if you look at what we have in IBM with as I said, in the 80s and in the 90s, we have a strong heritage as a technology company. But on the other side, as you know, in the early 2000s, we have actually merged with PwC Consulting, and so we actually brought in through an acquisition a very strong base of people with a business background. So what we are doing is we are not trying to jump, over the divide just from one side. What we are doing is we are coming actually from both sides. If you look at the pure wage differences, the gap is kind of, slowly but steadily growing smaller over time. But actually the way that, and specifically for S&T, that is, of course, the area I can specifically comment on. Specifically for S&T, actually, I see something completely different happening. It's not about, is the wage differential X% or Y%. What I actually see is that in a globalized world and also thinking in a way that is very well described through our strategy that we call the globally integrated enterprise. What I actually see is that the mid to long-term advantage of India is, and again, specifically in the area I'm responsible for, is not that we are talking about labor arbitrage at the end, so we are talking about a rate differential, but I see actually that it's more centers or groups of competence. So I see, for example, and that is very interesting. We have a significant S&T group in our global delivery center here in India, and I see people there actually being able to acquire and accumulate unique sets of experiences that some people in the local markets in Europe or North America cannot have, because they can work on one project 6 months with a client in China, the next 6 months with a client in Europe, the next 6 months with a client in North America, and after these 1.5 years, they have actually acquired a set of skills and an experience base that nobody else has. I can see, that maybe there are Indian consulting companies actually growing, but on the other hand, you know, what I see in the consulting market is that you basically have, you know, two big leagues. One is the global players, and you know, wherever they originally come from. And the reason why they are global players and the reason why it's a special league is because they are actually helping global clients. So as we spoke about the second wave of globalization before, if, you know, a company is just a small kind of, you know, boutique company in India, probably they will have a hard time to actually advise an Indian client on specific topics of globalization. On the other hand, and we see that in other markets as well, there is a market segment of those, you know, niche consultancies that are very specialized on certain topics, that are often localized, so they have a regional reach. They sometimes don't even have a national reach. They have a regional reach. They are serving, you know, kind of, you know, second-tier companies, still sizable companies, but a little bit smaller, less global, on very specific topics. You know, how to become more efficient, how to solve, you know, certain topics that are relevant for those companies. And again, but I see a very clear distinction of those two market segments, and actually I see very few companies somewhere in between. It's hard to be in between.